Again. I would like to thank you guys both for taking time out to talk to us, and I hope that both parties can put aside our misunderstandings throughout these negotiations.
Great. We're happy to listen. I think we'll tell you ahead of time. We unfortunately only have 10 or 12 minutes, and I know you had a few things you want to talk about.
Yeah, to get started, I wanted to talk about a big issue, the business of the vineyards that Zuckerberg has
Yes,
initiated.
the winery.
Yes. Your first concern was that, is this a business or is this just a hobby? But KPMG has thoroughly researched and can attest and account for a clear business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Also, did you all partake of the vineyard?
no, we did not. Zuckerberg actually shared with us a 50-page business plan that they have, and he'd like to share with you some
Well,
points.
that'd be great.
First of all, I actually want to just say that I hope you realize that I'm not like all the other clients that you most likely work with. You know, I have a strong background, and I've been successful in past entrepreneurships and businesses. And so has my business partner, Sean Parker, and he's been very successful with Napster in the past. And he's
He
helped
was
us
in here
out.
last week, actually.
Was he really? And he's helped us out with Facebook a lot as well. So we have put together a 50-page business plan. We took out just a portion of this so you don't have to read through it all. And that highlights mostly our mission statement. Sean and I have actually contacted a number of French wineries about possible joint ventures, and that's highlighted in our mission statement. And we've also contacted external marketing firms and have created a strategy, and the logo there is evidence of that.
Understood. Tell me how you got to your deduction then. So I understand the business piece of it.
Yeah, okay. So that was the main concern, was determine whether it was business, and we determined that it was. The deduction, we realized that, I'm sure you're familiar with the various court cases surrounding section 179 as well as 160. And these have deemed that grapevines are a permanent enhancement to the land. Therefore, they're not a personal property of Mr. Zuckerberg. They do count as land improvement. And section 176 has been disputed from various cases, which you're aware of, as being a pre-productive crop, which is depreciated or is allowed to be depreciated at a accelerated rate of 20 years, which Mr. Zuckerberg incorrectly deemed it to be 5 years. However, we've informed him that the correct year is 20.
Okay.
Therefore, the final deduction after taking into account the 50% partnership and the 20-year depreciable life, the $66,750 is the appropriate deduction according to the code.
So I'm very familiar with those cases, and we actually had that study last week on that. I'm sure there's a lot of vineyards out here in LA, right?
Yeah.
So the only question I did have is it appropriate to make that deduction in 2009 when it hasn't started bearing fruit yet? Is that the appropriate time, or is it when they actually start to bear
Yeah.
fruit?
The Trenton case actually happened in 2007 for the pre-productive crops, and that's what specifically allowed that even though the crops aren't bearing the fruit yet, it is allowable for an accelerated depreciation of 20 years. And the cap for this depreciation in 2009 was $250,000. In Mark Zuckerberg's case, it's only around $66,000, so it's well within the code.
Okay. I think that sounds reasonable.
$66,750.
Yeah, I think we can allow that.
Perfect. I would agree.
Topic?
We want to move on to the charitable donation of sculpture.
Okay, right. So just come to it.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we got,
That's
yeah,
good
reservations.
choice.
Yes. Village
Do you want
Tavern.
us to go on with you?
Yeah.
Okay,
That'd be
kind of
great.
talking about
Yeah, for me and Mr.
the
Martin, that's
modern
right.
art. We were excited to
Can we
talk
get that
with
same
Mr.
table
Schutz
in the back, in the corner that we like all the time?
Is also interested in artwork,
Yeah.
so I think Mr.
Can you make sure there's a
Zuckerberg
bottle of
will
wine on the
have to
table?
Yeah, I was
chat
just
with him.
Okay, great.
gonna
Okay.
talk real quick. I just wanted to clear this up. I really do appreciate the arts, and I'm sure, and I know that you do too. And this extends especially for my college friend Sarah Hamilton, and you know, I bought this piece in the past, and my intention of Davidson. Sorry, Sarah Davidson. Sarah Davidson. Sorry.
Close friends.
Yeah, very close friends. So my intentions of donating this piece was to share this appreciation with other people such as you. And I'm sure if you ever saw this piece of art and all of your other art, you would,
I'm sure it's lovely.
yeah, I would think that it was tremendous.
Okay.
For Sarah Davidson, some evidence that she definitely is a world-renowned modern artist. Through these two emails, you can see they're from museums both in New York and Boston. They both have some information about her and the value of this their estimates of this sculpture that's in question. And also, the sculpture was sold in 2012 to the London Tate Museum, which I'm sure you know about since it's one of the most world-renowned modern art museums. And it was sold in 2012 for 1.8 million, so it's a fair market value of that since it was two independent entities. And then, so we allowed for some growth in that for 3 years to knock it down to $1.5 million value of the sculpture in 2009, which my colleague's going to talk more about.
If this piece of art would have been sold, as you are aware, it would have been a Section 1231 capital gain. And through the IRS publication 544, 50% of the fair market value can be taken as a deduction if a piece of property was given as fair market, or as a charitable donation, sorry.
50% of the fair market value would be deducted.
Yes.
Okay, understood. Right.
And so that's where the $750,000 came from. And we also ensured that this was less than 30% of his AGI, which is one of the issues with the thing, with publication 544. So we believe that Mr. Zuckerberg was fair in taking this deduction, and he was trying to estimate his tax liability accordingly.
You know, this is really terrific support. I mean, obviously, it must have worked much more than what I originally thought. You know, the one thing that bothers me is there's a very explicit requirement in the tax code for a deduction. You know, it requires you to have an appraisal when you file the tax return, right? So that's the hard part for me as the protector of the government, right? There's an explicit requirement. So I kind of see the value. You know, what was, we learned in that training about a week or two ago, what was there is an exception though, right?
Giving them time to get back to us.
Yeah. So, Mr. Zuckerberg, you didn't know about that requirement, it was just an honest
No.
mistake?
Taxes are not exception.
Right, right, you made a good choice in
Yeah,
hiring
so
the
I
firm.
hired
yes.
KPMG.
That's right, that's right. Actually, I applied to work there one time, they didn't take me, so it was great. On that. But, you know, I think we could allow this pending, you can supply an appraisal in the next 30 days and fill out the appropriate forms. We could allow that deduction.
We will. We've looked at what a qualified appraisal looks like,
Yeah.
so we'll
Yeah, it
verify
definitely does
that.
not look like the email.
No.
Right,
Thank you for
What
that.
was the final value?
$750,000.
yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Pending appraisal.
Pending receipt of
Sorry, I have to get out of here in 5 minutes, so you need to speed this up a little.
Yes, I just wanted to touch on briefly the interest from the bonds
Yep.
that our client deducted.
Yep.
We agree with you that the interest from the federal home loan corporation should have been disallowed, and we have informed Mr. Zuckerberg of that. However, we do believe he was correct in deducting the interest from the Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center bond as well as the American Samoa bond.
Why?
Because Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center is a classified Section 503C organization, which means that it uses its revenues from the bonds it issues in order to further its tax exempt purpose.
Do you have any documentation that they're a 501c3?
It's from their website. I can certainly supply you with the link to that, but it is confirmed on their website as well as it does confirm the rules from the statute. And in addition to qualifying for this, it passes both Section 145 test, where it passes the ownership test, as well as it does not both support private business use test and the private payment or security test. So in this way, because it qualifies for both, that passes both those tests, we believe that the interest is therefore deductible according to the Section
Certainly makes
501C
sense, so we
rules.
just had some documentation that it was 501c3, so we can supply that.
I can certainly get that to you right afterwards. And then in addition to that, we think that the deduction for interest from the American Samoa bond was also well, and that can be directly linked to Section 103, which states.
So it's a state?
Yes, Section 103C actually
Oh,
it
there's
clarifies the
What is
definition.
the cookie?
No, states is actually including American Samoa, Guam, all U.S.
Really?
territories. Yep, Section 103C, and I can certainly further some documentation along that way. It's just in the IRC code, but I can certainly get you copies of that as well and forward that
That
along.
would be helpful. I know I could probably review that myself, but obviously I got a lot of people like Mr.
We
Zuckerberg to
will
walk, right?
make sure to forward you everything.
It's helpful when we're trying to settle things, to have the
You're
documentation,
not gonna
right?
put memorized.
Correct. And both of those income tax comes to a total of $141,000 that we do in this tax deductible.
Really both make sense. I think we can both agree with that pending resolution, similar to the artwork.
And then just to finally talk about the loan to his cousin Zoe Zuckerberg. We can understand how certainly it seems to be a personal loan.
Yeah.
However, we do have some documentation for you. These are some emails between him and his cousin, as well as the note itself, in addition to Mark's attempts to collect upon the loan after Zoe began to file for bankruptcy. And according to
She
public,
filed for bankruptcy?
yes, personal bankruptcy after the band just,
This almost looks like you have multiple ones. That's not the only loan you've made?
no, it's actually one of 3 to many different startup bands in association with
Is this
the
kind
new
of a
business
personal
venture he
business
has.
issue like yours that you're trying to
No,
get?
it's more in association with Facebook. And,
It's-
Facebook made these loans or you made the loans?
well, I've made the loans, but it's gonna, further the Facebook.
It's in
company.
conjunction with the new business venture he has. It's about a virtual manager that will help manage all these groups and take a percentage of the revenue as the
You never
fee.
stop coming up with something new, do you?
No, never do.
Very interesting.
And since this was the only startup band that actually was not successful, the other 2 in the beginning phases were, he attempted to collect upon the loan following the dissolution of the band and was unable to according to the bankruptcy filing.
This actually says bankruptcy. So, I mean, yeah, you're allowing, you're doing business alone, and, yeah, you're bankrupt.
And according to publication 535 of the tax code, it says that Mr. Zuckerberg is able to take a deduction for bad business debt.
That does make sense. I didn't realize Zoe couldn't repay it or if you were in business. So, that makes sense to me, and we can grant that.
Thank you.
Alright, moving along, I wanted to address the entrepreneurship event that Zuckerberg held out of pocket.
And, party.
Yeah, it was more of a business event after, in light of a lot of facts that he bestowed upon us. In regards to IRS publication 463, there are 2 various tests that you have to meet in order to deduct expenses from a business event. And that it meets the associated test, which states that there must
What
be.
business is this associated with?
Well,
It's associated with
Is that where you pay?
The business is